It's Wednesday, July 24th, 2019. I'm Karen Greer, and a special edition of the CBS 46 News at noon starts now.
The investigation needed to be conducted fairly and with absolute integrity. All decisions were made based on the facts and the law.
On the hot seat, after nearly a 2-year investigation, Special Counsel Robert Mueller testifies about Russian interference in the last presidential election.
Last week's scooter accident that took the life of a husband and father sparks a protest. Why they're planning to form a human chain this afternoon, feet from where it happened.
A toddler is injured after he crawls onto a conveyor belt and rides it for 5 minutes. Now travelers are asking, how could this happen?
Mother Nature is finally cooperating. It is a perfect day for some tennis. We're back at the BB&T Atlanta Open as last year's winner takes the court tonight looking to defend his title.
A fantastic day across Metro Atlanta, but how long will the nice weather last? I'm pinpointing those rain chances and when they will increase. Your complete forecast just moments away.
This is CBS 46 News at noon. Getting results.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good Wednesday afternoon. I'm Karen Greer. Former Special Counsel Robert Mueller on Capitol Hill answering questions for the very first time about the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election and President Trump's alleged obstruction. Now, take a look. There we are. Mueller telling lawmakers that investigators did not exonerate President Trump of obstruction of justice. Folks all over the country watching this. Watching him getting grilled actually by lawmakers, including right here at home. This is a look at Manuel's Tavern in Atlanta. CBS's Nicole Killian has more on our top story from Capitol Hill.
Former Special Counsel Robert Mueller was sworn in before a packed House Judiciary Committee Wednesday where he faced questions about his report led by committee chair Gerald Nadler.
So the report did not conclude that he did not commit obstruction of justice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what about total exoneration? Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
In his 448-page report, Mueller outlined 10 potential acts of obstruction of justice by President Trump, but declined to state whether the president broke the law. Nadler and other Democrats tried to show any other person besides the president would have been charged with a crime, while Republicans accused Mueller of overstepping his duty.
It was not the special counsel's job to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence or to exonerate him, because the bedrock principle of our justice system is a presumption of innocence.
Republicans also questioned whether the investigation was politically motivated.
You can charge all kinds of people who are around the president with false statements, but the guy who launches the guy who puts this whole story in motion, you can't charge him. I think that's amazing.
I'm not certain I agree with your characterizations.
Mueller mostly stuck to yes or no answers during the hearing and often responded to questions by referring to the report.
The report is my testimony, and I will stay within that text.
President Trump tweeted ahead of Mueller's testimony, calling himself a very innocent president. He repeated his refrain, no collusion, no obstruction. It's unclear if today's hearings will change any minds on either side of the political divide. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And we, of course, have live coverage online as Mueller testifies right now on CBS46.com. Plus, we'll have a complete wrap-up today beginning at CBS 46 News at 4 o'clock. Right now, our picture-perfect day outside. Here is a live look at Atlanta's BB&T Open over Atlantic Station. And as you can see, things looking great. If you've stepped outside, the weather really feels perfect. Let's get right to meteorologist Rodney Harris. It really doesn't get much better than this, Rodney.
It does not, Karen. It's such a different story from what we were seeing this time yesterday, of course, where we had some scattered showers here in Atlantic Station. But as you can see, and as you mentioned, Karen, a picture-perfect start to your afternoon for those of you watching on CBS46.com, inside the CBS 46 app, YouTube, and wherever else you can see us this afternoon. Your weather is fantastic in Metro Atlanta, and it will stay that way for the foreseeable future. Right now it's 81 degrees. That is your current temperature. We have a northeast wind at about 3 miles per hour. That's a really important wind because that north wind is what's bringing in the drier air that makes it feel so pleasant outdoors. So later on this afternoon, it's only up to about 85 degrees, which is actually below average. We'll keep plenty of sun in your forecast this afternoon, this evening, and you will definitely continue to notice the lower humidity here across Metro Atlanta. But Of course, this won't last. We will eventually get that humidity to come back up. We're also going to introduce some rain chances. That's down the road, so we'll talk more about your complete forecast, what you can expect for the weekend. We'll have more weather coming up for you, Karen, a little bit later.
All right, Rodney, thanks so much. To follow up to a story we first told you about yesterday as breaking news. Athens Clarke County police have identified the pregnant woman shot and killed while holding her child. Investigators say Oriel Calloway was hit by a stray bullet right near her apartment. Police say the 3-year-old she was holding, well, he's going to be okay. Well, happening today, protesters are planning a rush hour protest at the site of a deadly accident involving a transit bus and a man who witnesses say was riding a scooter. CBS 46's Rebecca Schramm reports the demonstrators are demanding safer streets for people who've given up their cars for alternative modes of transportation.
It was 1 week ago when 37-year-old William Alexander, known as Brad to his family and friends, was apparently on a scooter when he was struck by a bus and killed near the Arts Center MARTA station. As loved ones attend his funeral, many who didn't know him are planning a memorial of their own at the site of the accident. Nicholas Volmer is one of the organizers.
Today we're going to form a human-protected bicycle, scooter, and pedestrian lane. And we're going to link arms or bicycles or whatever modes of transportation that we have.
Starting at about 5 p.m., they plan to take up a full right lane on West Peachtree, acting as human barriers to protect people who walk and ride scooters or bicycles. The organizers want to make it clear this is not a protest against drivers. They're protesting the people who make decisions about safe streets.
We're frustrated because the Georgia Department of Transportation, in collaboration with the City of Atlanta, have not followed through on the promises to make roads that have protected infrastructure.
They say had those decision makers taken action sooner, Alexander would still be alive today.
We want them actually to put their money where their mouth is and show us that there's a way.
In Midtown, Rebecca Schramm, CBS 46 News.
Caught in the act, new video shows DeKalb County police officers physically trying to stop dirt bike and ATV riders as they drive illegally through a park. We spoke to the woman shooting the video who says she could not believe what she was seeing. She and many others now raising concerns about everyone's safety. Well, DeKalb police say they were forced to block roads around Gresham Park to stop those riders, and this was just one of the many incidents with the ATV riders recently. Over the weekend, riders were seen on Atlanta city streets weaving in and out of traffic. Look at that, around cars. DeKalb and Atlanta police departments arrested 4 people.
We don't want ATVs to go tearing through people's yards and crashing into a backyard and run over some small child.
And I have 2-year-old twins, and they're not fast enough to get out of anyone's way.
So law enforcement agencies said they're actually working on strategic methods like heightened monitoring of social media to try and stop the riders before they actually even get to the city. Well, new details in a bizarre incident coming out of the world's busiest airport. Spirit Airlines and the Transportation Security Administration are investigating after a toddler is hurt on a conveyor belt. Listen to this. Daniel Wilkerson tells you how it all happened from Hartsfield-Jackson.
It is the world's busiest airport, apparently so busy that no one saw a 2-year-old get on a conveyor belt here and ride it for 5 minutes. The parent was on a kiosk printing off a boarding pass. It seems logical that the child likely got to the conveyor belt 2 ways, either crawling over the scale here or over here under this gate. Now, the airline says that this gate was locked, but as you can see there's enough room for a toddler to crawl underneath. The conveyor belt, by the way, is just beyond the gate.
My first thought about that mother also was for 5 minutes her child was lost. Could you imagine the fear, the trauma, the thoughts that were going through her head when she couldn't find her child for 5 minutes?
Spirit Airlines says there were no employees working this side of the counter at the time. 5 minutes after being on the conveyor belt, the toddler was dumped down a luggage chute. He injured his arm.
Things happen, accidents happen. You can get distracted, it only takes a second.
A spokesperson with the airline says they're working with the TSA to determine whether protocol was followed. Travelers are just happy the story ended as well as it did.
I don't know. I don't think anybody's at fault. It was just one of those things where you just probably weren't paying attention at that one moment. And like kids do, they run off and do what they want to do. They have a mind of their own.
At Hartsville-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, Daniel Wilkerson, CBS 46 News.
That is frightening. Daniel, thanks. In Cobb County, police there telling us they will not file charges in a grocery store dispute between a state legislator and another customer. Eric Sparks denies telling State Representative Erica Thomas to, quote, go back where she came from, end quote, after she got into the express lane of a public store with more than the express lane items. Now, both Sparks and Thomas say they have witnesses corroborating their very different stories. You can watch the exclusive interview and hear both sides of this viral story right now on our free CBS 46 app. To get it, just text CBS 46 to 23765. It's part of our continuing coverage of this story. Right now, people are assessing the damage after a rare tornado touches down in multiple locations in Cape Cod, Massachusetts yesterday. Now, Laura Podesta joining us from the CBS Broadcast Center in New York today to talk about this. Laura, these pictures were amazing. What area was the hardest hit?
They certainly were. The whipping winds and rain proved too much for the studs of one hotel roof. We have video. Take a look showing the Cape Sands Inn in West Yarmouth, Massachusetts, getting its top blown off by Mother Nature. The EF1 tornado, the National Weather Service says, did not actually strike that hotel. It hit nearby Yarmouth and Harwich. Miraculously, though, no one was injured during this extreme weather, though plenty of buildings, cars, and streets were covered with downed tree limbs. 50,000 people lost power. And Karen, we should mention this is extremely unusual for this part of the country. It's just the fourth time in 70 years that a tornado has struck Cape Cod.
Wow. Yeah, it was amazing to look at. And Laura, a new proposal.
What a way to experience a vacation.
It sure is.
Beach
Absolutely.
vacation, there's a tornado.
On the Cape. A new proposal by the Trump administration actually could leave up to 3 million people without food stamps. Now, what are we talking about here?
So the proposed rule, Karen, would work by tightening eligibility requirements related to a program called Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. Currently, anyone who receives benefits under it is also automatically eligible for food stamps. So the White House calls that a loophole because the two programs have different income requirements. The Department of Agriculture, which is headed up by former Georgia Governor Sonny Perdue, says state officials have long been misusing the benefits process. The USDA estimates that the rule change would save the federal government nearly $2 billion a year. But Karen, a lot of needy families are concerned about this proposal.
Absolutely, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Laura Podesta, thanks so much.